Welcome to this webinar for the Cert qualification in Creative Design and Production, the Design Order. Hi, I'm Beth. I'm part of the Provider Development Team at NCFE, supporting schools and colleges with NCFE qualification. My background is design. I have worked in the design industry, but I've also taught art and design subjects from a level 1 to 6 for nearly 20 years at an FE college. In this webinar, we will look at the design order and how you can link this to the content areas by setting mini briefs projects throughout the first year of the Cert qualification, linked to different topics, materials across the creative design and production specification and the design order. Looking at how to research, forms of research, design development, final outcome, products, annotation and evaluation, along with the next steps, the bigger picture of the design industry. Let's look at the design order. We will start with looking at the content areas of the qualification. By putting the content areas into a brief project scenario, this follows the design order, allowing your learners to cover the content areas. Content area 1, design and production. In context, this could cover research, looking at the design movements. This could be the theme of your project brief, principles of design, the area in which your learners could focus on, from fashion, textiles, product design, etc. Looking at the environment and social factors that would impact the design brief project. Content area 2, design materials and processes. This could cover research and development, looking at the material your learners would use in the brief mini project, hand rendered and digital. Content area 3, design brief and production process. This would cover research, development and the final design product, looking at the design brief, the client, the communication of skills, development and health and safety linked to the brief. Content area 4, presentation of design solutions. This could cover the final design product and the presentation, the purpose of the presentation, the methods of the presentation, presentation skills for the design solution. Content area 5, review and process of and solution. This could cover annotation and evaluation, formative review of the design process and production, summative review of the design solution. And finally, content area 6, working in the design production industries, the bigger picture, the next steps, employment and career opportunities and skills in the design production industry, employment and career opportunities, skills for the design production industry, product promotion and self-promotion. The AOs provide a consistent framework for learners and are applied synoptically, allowing learners to show their knowledge, understanding and skills across the full breadth of the qualification. Following the design order, these links across the areas of design, applying the knowledge, recalling the information, demonstrating, evaluating the technical skills and processes. Your learners will demonstrate, recall knowledge, show understanding, apply knowledge, analyze and evaluation, demonstration and apply technical skills and processes, manage and evaluate the project. The brief project starting point. We'll call it a brief project throughout this webinar, depending on what terminology you use at your school. Before setting your learners on a brief project, decide which areas of the specification you want to cover. Select the theme for the main topic linked to the art movement from the specification. These are the arts and craft, the Art Nouveau, Art Deco, Bauhaus, Modernism, Memphis, Postmodernism. Select for each project brief working throughout the art movements to cover all from the qualification. You then would select the area of design for your final outcome product and what workshops you will link to these. From the specification, these are interior, textiles, fashion, fine art, architecture, product design, automobile and jewellery. You may group some of the design areas or concentrate on one particular area for each project brief. For example, you may group textiles and fine art as an outcome, interior and architecture along with product design, fashion textiles, or fashion and jewellery. You would then need to decide which workshops you want to cover linked to the design areas following the specification, remembering to cover health and safety within these. Textiles, paper, cardboard, wood, plastics, metals, smart materials. For examples, you could link arts and craft to textiles and fine art, Bauhaus and Art Deco to architecture, interior and product design. As a teacher, you can create exciting brief projects for your learners covering the specification. Once you have a clear content, your topic is set for the brief project. Next, let's look at putting this into the design order. To start any project brief, we need to start with research. The research would link to the content area 1, design and production in context, and part of content area 3, design brief and production processes. Content area 1, 1.1, design movements, 1.2, design principles, 1.3, environmental impact of a product, and 1.4, impact of social factors on a product. And content area 3, 3.1, interpreting a design brief, 3.2, design proposals, 3.2.1, design solution process, 3.2.2, design solution presentation, 3.3, communication skills, and 3.3.1, client communication skills, and 3.3.2, graphical communication skills. As covered in the previous section, what areas of design will your project brief be for your learners? The art, movement, and the areas of design. Would you let them select their own design area? Will you set the area of design? Will they cover different design areas? What form will you deliver the art movements? An art lecture format with classroom discussion? Later in the webinar, we will look at this in further depth. Let's look at types of research. Within your brief, you could start with a mood concept board to create a visual direction of the project. These could also link well with the project proposal. Examples of mood boards and workshops on the next slide. For gathering research, make sure your learners are looking at a wide range in the form of primary and secondary sources, from photography to sketching. Where could the source be gathered from in your local area or within your school? Here are some examples of mood boards. These could be digital or hand-rendered. Think about the areas of design you want your learners to focus on. These boards would also work well with a design proposal. Once your learners have their direction, they would move on to gathering further research. Another form of research could be in a homework task. This could be for your learners to reflect on the art movements. Do they understand the key points? Have they retained the information? Recording knowledge of key dates, designers, and overall movement. This could be a good starting point to research so learners clearly understand the direction or used as a fact check. One research is gathered throughout. Where will your learners gather primary and secondary research from within your local area? From the topic theme of the art movement and for the area of design. Primary could be from drawing from actual objects in class, visiting places such as art galleries and museums, gathering inspiration from the world around, sketching on location. Secondary could be books, internet, magazines, and papers from your school library. and the internet. Here are some examples of different forms of research. The theme was woodlands. Although this doesn't directly link to an art movement, it sits well with Art Nouveau or arts and craft. Think about the primary source that links well to the topic of the project brief. The first and second page shows initial investigation, linking to drawing work, photography, materials, all in a primary form. The third page shows secondary research from a newspaper article linking to fashion, and the learner is starting to add sample swatches of fabrics that they could use linked to their workshops. Here are some examples of sketchbook pages linking to artist research. See specification for guidance on artists linked to the research qualification. These pages are a good example of how to research and experiment ideas that reflects artists' work through a workshop. These were linked to a textile printing and collage workshop. The print techniques is covered using bubble wrapped and the collage using tissue paper with printed images. The specification has extensive list of techniques to cover for the research qualification. Referring back to the earlier slide in the webinar, how as a group can your learners research the art movements? Rather than a teacher-led lecture, the task could be group work, looking at the art design movements. Could your class research together, creating a timeline wall, presenting the art movements back to their peers? Here is an example. Here are some further examples of how the group work could look. This could be digital, hand-rendered, printed out, depending on the access and what facilities. Within the research, make sure you are covering the aspects of Content Area 1 from the specification, environment and social factors, both past and present. These visuals are present, but thinking about the art movements, how could you compare to that time? Making sure learners are considering these within their brief project linked to research. This would be a great classroom activity through discussion and mind mapping exercise. An activity that would follow on well from the environmental and social factors could be classroom discussion. And this could be a customer-client board. What barriers would their customer face? What social factors need to be considered for the design? With examples of the design items such as buildings, clothing and products for the home, referring back to that initial mood board. This could be also delivered creating a fictional customer. Who would the customer be? What would need to be considered when designing? This could be also delivered in a form of mind mapping. This is a great starting point for the next area of design order, the development. The research is clearly set out for the next stage. We will now move on to development stage of the design order. Development would link with Content Area 1, Design and Production in Context, Content Area 2, Design Materials and Processes, and part of Content Area 3, Design Brief and Production Processes. Content Area 1, 1.1, Design Movement, still making strong links to the art movement in the brief project. 1.2, Design Principles. 1.3, Environmental Impact of a Product. 1.4, Impact of the social factors on a product. Content Area 2, 2.21, Investigate the materials. 2.1.1, Materials. 2.1.2, Properties and Characteristics. 2.1.3, Aesthetics. 2.1.4, Surface Treatments and Finishing Techniques. 2.1.5, Costs. And 2.2, Design Processes. 2.3, the digital design and manufacture opportunities. 2.3.1, computer aided design CAD. And 2.3.2, computer aided manufacture CAM. And Content Area 3, 3.2.1 Design Solution Process, 3.2.2 the Design Solution Presentation, 3.3 the Communication Skills, 3.31 Client Communication Skills, 3.3.2 Graphical Communication Skills, 3.3.3 the Digital Communication Skills, 3.4 Design Solutions Modification in Response to Feedback, and 3.5 Production Plan, 3.6 Production Plan Methods and Processes and Techniques, and 3.7 Safe Working Practices. Before starting development through classroom discussion, what makes a good design, refer to the teaching content from the specification diagram's 10 principles of design. Again, this could be evidenced through a mind mapping task, linking to the AO1, recalling knowledge and showing understanding, thinking about the areas of design and what has worked well in the research. The development should be clear from the research. Taking the workshops you have covered, learners can start to work more independently to develop their own ideas. Learners can develop samples and layouts linking to the content areas listed previously, developing designs and exploring a range of materials. Here are an example of development layouts, sample swatches, sketch development, and swatch development using materials. Here are some further examples of development, developing an idea to add experimenting with materials. Here are further examples of design development linked to the woodland theme from the earlier research slide. This includes development layouts showing planning and swatches. These are displayed against the research, fashion visualization, and the primary photography. As learners come to finalise their development, the next stages should be looking at the final production plan and costing. You could bring in peer group work at this point in the final development. Have they met the client's brief? Consider the environment and the social factors before starting their final design production through peer assessment and classroom presentations. Throughout the project brief, learners must cover health and safety alongside with understanding hazards and risk. This would be delivered alongside classroom workshops and when using equipment, referring to health and safety regulations, but also through group work and classroom discussion why it's important and critical to stay safe in working practices. This could be delivered through quizzes, spot the hazard from a visual picture quiz, making it a fun classroom activity rather than a ticking box exercise. Next, we will look at the final design, taking the research and the development into a final outcome product. The final outcome stage would link to Content Area 3, Design Brief and Production Process, and Content Area 4, Presentation of a Design Solution. Content Area 3, 3.2.1, Design Solution Process, 3.2.2, Design Solution Presentation, 3.3, Communication Skills, 3.3.1, Client Communication Skills, 3.3.2 Graphical Communication Skills, 3.3.3 Digital Communication Skills, 3.4 Digital Solution Modification in Response to Feedback, 3.5 the Production Plan, 3.6 Production Methods, Processes and Techniques, and 3.7 Safe Working Practices. And Content Area 4, 4.1 the Purpose of the Presentation, 4.2 Methods of Presentation, and 4.3 Presentation Skills for a Design Solution. The final design should show clear links to the whole design order, linking to the theme of the research and the area of the creative design and production. Here is an example of a few final designs from artwork, textile samples, fashion drawings, illustrations. This is only a few, and the list of possibilities from the design areas is extensive. But also remember what facilities you have available to your school. This may be in a 2D final design or along with a 3D final design, reflecting on the creative design and production specification and the area you have chosen to cover in your learner's brief project. Referring back to the design areas, have your learners produced a final product that reflects the area and the art movement set in the project brief? Within the design order, your learners also need to consider presenting their final design and the portfolio presentation of the project brief. This could be a verbal presentation to the classroom group, or you could invite a guest speaker or another teacher from within the school to see the presentations. Consider presentations of the whole project for your learners into a portfolio format, hand-rendered or digital. This could be delivered in classroom workshops to support the presentation skills and portfolio layouts digitally using tools such as PowerPoint or Canva. Next, we will look at annotation and evaluation. This would link to Content Area 5, Review of Processes and Solution. 5.1, Formative Review of Design Processes and Production, and 5.2, Summative Review of the Design Solution. Learners need to make sure they are annotating their work, meeting the needs of the brief project. This is taken from Content Area 5.2, Summative Review of a Design Solution. Have your learners explain clearly through the annotation the functionality of the product, the suitability of their target audience, the usability, the performance, how challenges faced were they resolved, future development modifications, lessons learned. Throughout the project brief, learners need to link the AOs and the content areas through the annotation. On the next slide, we will look at ways to break this down for your learners. Here is a great technique to annotate and evaluate through the who, what, where, when, why, and how. Breaking down how to evaluate learners' own work and the work of others. Make sure your learners are aware of terminology used. You may have already started visual language in Year 9 or before. However, revisit this throughout each brief project. Learners could create a creative dictionary supporting their written element of their qualification. Here is an example of a few of the visual language from the teaching content. This could be in the back of learners' books, AO1, recalling the knowledge and showing understanding. And this could be used alongside the theme of their project. Here are some command words linked with the AOs. These are a great word bank for your learners to support their annotation and give them understanding of the terminology that could be used to explain their own work. The next steps would link to Content Area 6, Working in the Design Production Industries. 6.1, Employment and Career Opportunities and Skills in the Design Production Industry. 6.1.1, Employment and Career Opportunities. 6.1.2, Skills for the Design Production Industry. 6.2, Production Promotion, and 6.3, Self-Promotion. Content Area 6 puts the design order into content. Your learner now has researched, developed, and produced a final design product. But they need that understanding of the design industry and how would their product design be marketed? Where would it fit within the industry? Would it be mass produced for a company, or would they be a small seller? Ways in which you could deliver this could be through classroom workshops and discussion. guest speakers from the industry, referring back to initial and primary secondary research, the sources where they gathered from, where final designs would fit into the industry, how would it be sold, employment and career opportunities, looking at job searches, the design industry, referring back to the areas of design, industry sectors, again referring back to the area of design and the sectors within each one, types of work within the design field, product promotion and self-promotion. By building the vCert specification into a brief scenario, this gives your learners the real understanding of the design industry and the design order. This could be part of their design project, or you may prefer learners to gather their evidence throughout in a Next Steps career workbook folder. Resources and support available online from NCFE. Here are some slides of useful online resources you could also use for gathering research. Here are further online resources to support your delivery. On our NCFE website, within the research page, you'll find the resources to support your delivery and assessment of this qualification. It currently includes the links to the subject-specific QualHub page, where you can find the qualification specification, fact sheet, and synoptic connections. The sample assessment materials and the sample mark scheme will also be available. For further instructions and information on conducting the EA and the NEA, centres must ensure they have read or are familiar with the regulations for the conduct of the external assessment, qualification specification, instructions for delivery document, and the synoptic project. Lastly, I've included some links for you to refer to if you require further information and support. There is a standardisation training placed on the 24th of April 2023, 1 p.m. till 3 p.m. You can use this link on the screen to register for the upcoming event. Centres should attend this training as it will help develop your understanding of the grading criteria when assessing your learners' responses, and it will provide valuable information to help you understand our mark schemes. There is the vCert Prep to Teach Year 1, Curriculum Planning and Formative Assessment for Creative Design and Production. The vCert Prep to Teach Year 2, Assessment Preparation and Support for the NEA and the EA. And last but not least, our customer support team, if you need to contact them for further guidance about this qualification. Thank you for listening, and I hope you found this useful.